I had no idea. Just something popped up and said you're live, and I was like, oh, what?
Had we been live
No.
for quite some time?
Yes, but
In secret?
you were fully clothed the whole time. I can promise you. What's up, everybody? My name is Dale Wheatley. I'll be your host this evening, along with the beautiful Angela. Hello, Angela. All right, guys. How you doing? How are you doing? Thank you, Bobo, for shouting out for everyone to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't.
Oh, that's nice.
That's nice. Sometimes the Baldoni people who show up, they subscribe and then they just go away the next day. They wake up and they're like, I just can't. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. We're now posting these lives on the main channel as cut lives, and which is good because you get to miss the Dale spacing out and my ADHD, whatever the fuck it is. My wringing of the hands, and my all my idiosyncrasies on display. Happiness in your life is here. Delicate is here. Bobo is here. Tangerine is here. All Scientist wishes us all a good morning. It's so nice that you're having a morning. Jacqueline is here. She's like stretched. Like, that's her start. Here I am. I'm like, all right, man. I'm ready for my popcorn and a movie.
We have to watch a movie. Dale and I have both been studying so much that we haven't really been catching up on our entertainment.
I am working so hard at, I feel like I'm ready to start doing readings, tarot readings, but I'm having my last minute, like, okay, I'm going to write out every single card, meaning top to bottom. I have the book of correspondences. I've got the Golden Dawn sitting on, because I love their take, the Golden Dawn's take on tarot, which of course they also had a great deal of influence, if not all the influence, on the tarot's correspondences with the Tree of Life. Another thing I'm studying Hebrew because I want to learn the Hebrew alphabet, because apparently, as it relates to the Tree of Life, there's some incredible vibration between actually saying the letters of the Hebrew, that like Aleph, for example, that like that vibrates all the way up into Kepher, which is the top of the Tree of Life, or the unknowable everything and all.
The unknowable everything.
It is, yeah. It's beautiful. It's easy to make that little funny face and nod at it like that, but it is actually so beautiful.
I'm not a skeptic. I think I think this is all really interesting.
Kether.
It's funny because most of the time when you learn something, I'll learn something too, because we're kind of attached at the hip. So like, and I'll drag you along with my education, like whatever my hyperfixation is at the time, I'll drag you along too. But this is one where you've completely diverted and you're doing your own thing.
Yeah.
And you're like so committed that now you've started to speak this like language that I just don't understand anymore.
Yeah. Well, you don't understand Hebrew. I don't understand Hebrew. But
no, I don't just mean that, but just any of the concepts that you're talking about with the tarot. I just don't like, I think that tarot is interesting, but like, I'm totally satisfied with like flipping over a card and then looking at the book and reading what somebody else says it says and being like, okay. And then moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, well,
like, you want to really understand it for yourself.
It would be similar to, like in astrology, it would be similar to like just looking at the planet and saying, oh, that's the planet of war. So that means, and it's in the fifth house. That means I must be fighting with my children, or my children are going to fight with me, or I'm going to struggle with creation as creative pursuits, as opposed to understanding the deeper meanings of both the sign, the house, and the planet, and the way in which they correspond. Also, where the planet sits, for example, it might be at a specific decan or bounds. So there are just all these and then of course there are aspects and stuff. Like it'd be like ignoring aspects entirely, Mm-hmm. So when tarot, when you get down into the depths of tarot, and
there's always layers.
Well, I mean, tarot was created with astrology in mind, with numerology in mind, with the Tree of Life in mind. So, at least it's evolved in such a way. Anyway, it's absolutely thrilling and beautiful.
Oh, Delicate said that there's a tarot, I guess that's an account, Blue Hill Tarot, has a major bias against Blake Lively. That's so random. Why do they care? That's amazing.
It's crazy. Well, so I've been putting these videos up, and just like, we're getting the Baldoni fans.
Yeah.
And they're just nasty people, man.
Very critical. Very critical.
Like,
people.
I mean, obviously not all of them. You know, there are certainly many Baldoni
You know what's
stands.
so funny about that is that the people who are supporting Baldoni are very critical online, but they also have a huge problem with how Blake Lively was very critical of Baldoni, and it seems like that's kind of the role that they play themselves. Like, isn't it strange? It's a bit of a glass stone, or it's throwing stones from a glass house type situation.
Of course, I mean, Jacqueline. Before we continue, has a hello, Jacqueline. I'm always glad to see you. You know, I told you, Jacqueline is our first dollar. She gave us our first dollar on this live. She was the first.
It's framed.
Yeah, in my heart. So Jacqueline has a movie recommendation. I'd love to know what.
Give it up.
What it is. What is it? Tell us what it is. Maybe we'll watch it this weekend.
I'm tongue-tied today. I'm supposed to do all this reading, but like I feel like kind of a dummy.
You need to get your shit together.
I need to get my shit together.
What do we got?
Get my head in the game. Delicate said I put Coachella live stream.
Oh my
I keep
God.
saying Coachella. It's Coachella, right?
It's Coachella, yeah.
I have a habit of pronouncing like I speak Portuguese, and when I was learning Portuguese when I was younger, it's so easy to pronounce if you pronounce every single vowel.
Yeah.
That's just how Portuguese works, is you pronounce every vowel. So Coachella has an A in it, and I always want to pronounce the A, but nobody else does.
Coherence. Did we see Coherence?
No, I don't know what that is.
It's a movie directed by James Ward Birkitt? Forgive me, James Ward. It's a horror. It's a thriller. It's a science fiction. It's a documentary. It's a drama. It's a suspense mystery. Those are the genres. It was made for $50,000, and it looks like it was made for.
It was made for $50,000, and it's all these genres.
Yeah.
I am skeptical that would be good.
It's not. It's not rated. It gets great reviews. A lot more people have seen it than they've seen Don's Plum, which was made for considerably more than $50,000. 7.2 out of 10. 171. I'm definitely going to watch this. Yeah, we'll watch this weekend. Thank you for the recommendation.
Sasha's with us. Sasha forever. Oh, that doesn't say forever. Anyway, Sasha said, "Hi all, been listening to the recordings for a while, but I think this is my first time joining live from the very beginning."
Oh my God, that's so exciting.
I hope we didn't disappoint.
I'm so glad you're here. That is just awesome. Archival Raccoon is here as well. Well, Sasha, I'm so glad you're here. That is really super exciting. It's exciting to know that. I have to remember to speak to, the folks who are.
Oh, Emily Baldoni's in it. With Nicholas Brendan and Emily Baldoni.
Oh.
I'm very
Nick Brendan, who is dead.
I don't want to discover her acting talent and find out that she's very good, because I feel like she deserves so much better.
Yeah.
I think Baldoni's a fucking head case, and she deserves to be free of whatever problems he's started and brought into her life. And so if I also find out she's talented, I'm going to feel worse.
No, why? She's talented. So what? Look, being a woman in Hollywood is a difficult thing to be.
I'm going to feel worse because she has become a housewife to a Baldoni who cannot get his shit together enough to maintain the opportunities he gets. And so I don't think that that's a very stable whatever. I don't need to psychoanalyze their fucking relationship, but
yeah.
When I saw her on the Man Enough podcast, and as soon as she started talking, she just began the subject of how much of a burden, of how much work, how much like unpaid labor mothers have to do, and she started tearing up. And I was just like, God damn, like maybe this isn't what she wanted in her life.
So this is before she was a Baldoni, by the way.
What?
This is before she was a Baldoni.
Yes, I know. She hasn't acted anymore since she was a Baldoni.
Yeah, well, because she's doing her job.
She was in It Ends With Us, but so she had a speaking role in that.
Nick Brennan, huh?
Whatever. I'm not an expert in Emily Baldoni, and I don't claim to be, but I just feel like this guy needs some fucking help, and I just feel sorry for all the people around him who have to like constantly shore up his fragile ego. And he talks about how he relies on her so much, and it just seems like it's got to be a goddamn heavy weight to carry.
The other thing that happened is that, I've been releasing these videos now on the main channel. We have like 3 up now, and it's just going to happen every day. Well, not every day, but every time we do a video now, I'm going to post it up on the live channel. And somebody stopped by and got a bunch of support. Apparently I mistreat you.
Oh yeah, we
on the
heard
live.
today that you mistreat me.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
I'm a bad
Well, so what are
I'm
you
a bad
gonna?
husband, and they want you to escape. They want you to run for your life, Angela. They're saying that you'll do better in life and you'll have more self esteem if you get away from me.
They said all that.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
and then I deleted it, and then I just immediately had like regret of deleting it because I immediately started like playing with it in my head and being more funny with it. I was like, oh, I should have responded with, well, that worked. She's gone. Thank you very much. We've been married for 14 years. We have 3 kids and 2 dogs. And you just totally made her realize that I'm a piece of shit, and she left.
She left. I don't know where she is.
And so
I
I'll be,
usually keep her shackled here underneath where you can't see with the cameras.
yeah. So you might want
Right
to,
here in this seat is
yeah.
usually where I've got like the chains, you know,
she made me, she convinced me somehow to uncuff her.
to unlock the padlocks.
And I did, and she ran right for the door. I couldn't believe it. And yeah, she escaped. So now I'm going to try to charge her with assault. Anyway, yeah, it's just so weird being subjected to people who are so awful.
Just judgmental people.
Yeah.
Whatever. I hope they had a nice time. I hope it was entertaining for them.
Well, it's just weird that anybody has that kind of confidence. Like they can watch us on a video and be like, "Oh, that's bad. That guy's a piece of shit, and that's bad." It's weird. It's weird.
I feel like sometimes it is. We do have a bit of the vibe of like people in a dysfunctional family dinner and Thanksgiving, and like
We do?
and the adults are fighting, and you have to like just keep eating your mashed potatoes.
We have that?
sometimes. Like on very very seldom when we disagree, but we move on from it pretty fast.
Well, until we reschedule, until we changed our schedule and we started doing 3 days a week instead of 5 days a week, which was an incredibly difficult schedule to keep up with. Uh, you know, uh, I mean, when you're putting yourself out that much, I suppose there are going to be awkward moments. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not bothered by it.
Oh, me neither. I just
I don't
find it
feel-
extraordinary.
I don't feel like our relationship is challenged by a YouTube comment.
No. I was just bringing it up for the funsies
Yeah.
of wanting to I think in the future I'm just going to reply to people, who are mean to me or to you,
I was
with some kind of a humor slant instead of just deleting them. I think
Oh
it'd be more
yeah,
fun.
sure. But I also think like how fucking boring would it be if we were just sitting here like professing our love to each other and like getting along the entire time?
Just agreeing with each other. Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, uh-huh. Oh, yeah,
Oh,
uh-huh.
you know what? That's a really great point. You're so smart, baby.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine? Nobody
Yeah.
would watch that. I think it's like they're always the best like scenes in movies, like when you're writing a book or a screenplay or whatever. Like you
Yeah.
have to have tension. It just wouldn't really work if we were constantly getting along. Like, like of two minds. I mean, of one mind.
Yeah.
Whatever. See where I am at today?
Yeah.
I'm mush mouthed.
Anyway, it's just it's crazy and funny all at the same time. Delicate said, "You do, but we are used to it." I guess we do what we scrap. What do we do? We have awkward
We
moments.
abuse each other.
We just have these awkward moments. I mean, there have been times where I've certainly saw you like you've had enough of me.
Oh yeah, well, like the Ellen shtick it gets exhausting.
First of all, I'm already offended calling it a shtick. It's a part of my personality. Victoria's here. Always fun to have Victoria here.
Mm-hmm.
She has words of wisdom. She does. Think anyone should speak of anyone's relationship, especially of marriage. Only the two involved know what really goes on inside. Well, see, like I said, she's totally full of wisdom. Well, the thing about it is,
well, yeah, but also this applies for my criticism of the Baldonis, right?
okay,
Like I don't really have a place to criticize the Baldonis, but I have heard, and this is the only reason why I have an opinion whatsoever, is because Justin Baldoni is in his deposition was talking about how much he relies on Jamie Heath and the guys in his prayer group and his wife, and he is constantly soliciting in the prayer group, at least in what we've seen, he's constantly soliciting like comfort and praise from people, and I understand that that's normal when people have healthy relationships, but he seems to be in trouble a lot more than I feel like he ought to be, and I just wonder whether he puts an excessive burden on his close loved ones to comfort him more than they probably, like if somebody like Emily Baldoni has 2 young children at home, and then Justin Baldoni is suffering from a crisis of his very own making that literally nobody else made him get involved in but himself, and then puts that on her too, I just feel like that must be fucking exhausting. Being bombarded by two young kids who constantly need your comforting, and then an adult man who needs your comforting too.
Yeah, obviously that's
But
ridiculous.
Victoria's right. Like, I don't think, she says, I don't think anyone should speak on anyone's relationship, especially a marriage. Only the two involved know what goes on inside. That's totally correct.
Well, especially because they were kind of attacking your agency. I mean, they were just like they said something about like that you gotta buck up and take control of your life, and somebody said that I need to stop telling you to shut up.
When do you
Shut up.
That's a good one. When do you ever tell me to shut
I
up?
don't think I've ever told you to shut up. There might have been a moment where I was like, "Hey, let me finish," or things like that. You've had those same, but
Yes, that's very different than shut up. That's very different.
I think that was the very first time I just told you to shut
I'm
up.
an interrupter, and I know that about
Yeah,
me.
we both are. I
We
mean,
both have like that ADD problem of like coming up with a thought and instantly wanting to blurt it out of your mouth.
I guess they don't understand the concept of too real, right? Because the concept of too real is that we're not sitting here putting on a bunch of fakery. We're not sitting here going, "Hey everyone, welcome to Too Real Live. My name is Dale Wheatley and I'm with the beautiful Angela. Hello, Angela. Great to have you here today." Like, we're not doing that. We're here to just be ourselves and tell the stories that are coming up from our, through our lenses or whatever. And so it's fun that way.
Yeah, whatever.
Bing is here, a little behind in the video, but I told you that that stupid comment that I don't agree with you on this case, but I also didn't agree with that comment. How does one know how someone treats someone based on an hour? I don't even think they spent an hour. This is the thing that really is like tricky about the way, this is the thing about the internet. Like, people glean information like instantly. And there's a study out that I'm going to bring up on Monday when we have a relatively clean show where we can like go in and do some of the regular format and not be totally bogged down by the Baldoni files. But, this short burst content format that's, plagued our society, for lack of a better term, is apparently detrimental to people's thinking skills and or having a profound effect, according to science, on the mind. And I'm going to get into it. I'm going to read the article. It's fascinating.
Yeah, there's another very similar article. There's one that's critical of short form content and what it does to your ability to employ critical thinking and your ability to focus, right? Because short form content makes you take in a piece of information, and then when the next video shows up, you immediately discard that piece of information. So it actually doesn't get you to think about anything deeply because you're just on to the next thing. Yeah. Whereas another article was similar. It was like praising reading books because they're like, this is exactly the kind of focusing that you should be doing that undoes the damage of the short form content, like constantly having to like change gears with your focus. If you're actually in a book, even if you struggle to like read a paragraph and take in everything and really comprehend what's happening, if you redo it over and over and you like train yourself to do that again, you can erase all of that damage and actually get your focus back and get your ability to think deeply. I think that you're right. It might be that somebody's comment about how seeing us bicker for like 2 seconds means that we have a broken relationship. It might be because people aren't being asked to engage very deeply or think very critically about anything that they see online or whatever anybody posts, You're just supposed to have an impression, maybe an emotional reaction in an instant, and then completely discard it because the next thing comes up because you've scrolled or the next video shows, It's not good. So like people are losing their ability to really figure shit out. Like if you like when you're a kid and you're fucking bored and you decide to like figure something out, take something apart and put it back together. Nobody does that anymore. Like you're never presented with a puzzle anymore that you can't solve and you have to figure out.
It was my dad. It's my dad's whole life. My dad figured out everything that way.
It's extremely rewarding.
He took apart cars.
Nobody ever gets that reward of like hard thinking work, right? That pays off. Like it's super, super rewarding. That's why you'll find somebody who's like started they'll tinker a little with like machinery or whatever, like repairing a fucking coffee maker or whatever. And then they just don't stop. And then they've got like, those people that have like a bunch of cars on their property that they're always fixing. It's because it pays off in brain chemistry. They did a study with rats, lab rats, where if the lab rats that were given their...
Don't compare me to a lab rat.
The lab rats that were given easy rewards, right? Like easy treats, access to food and water and delicious things. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they had another set of lab rats that had to perform tasks that were difficult in order to get the reward. After a certain amount of time, the ones that had easy access became depressed. And the ones that consistently had to work hard and solve puzzles for their reward were continuing to engage with and like actively engage with the puzzles in order to get the reward, even when they didn't need to. Like even when they were well fed, they were just like, yeah, I'm down. Let's solve a puzzle. And so it just shows that like
That's cool.
the brain chemistry, it's like it releases pleasure chemicals, the same pleasure chemicals that are released when somebody abuses mind altering substances or when they achieve orgasm or something. It's the same exact pleasure chemicals that get released in your brain when you solve a puzzle and you get to enjoy the rewards that come from it. Otherwise you get depressed. That's why whenever anybody's depressed, the advice is always like pick up a hobby because your brain's asking for it.
Yeah, well, there's so much study about, getting your brain busy on so many different like things, especially as you grow older. Like it's so interesting that there's almost, at least in dudes, I'm not sure how much in women, because I've just noticed it with men that men like they retire or they whatever they get to a certain age and they're like, guitar. I need a guitar.
I have to learn.
I must learn the guitar, and it's just like a brilliant thing to do to your brain. Besides taking mushrooms. Anyway, yeah. Craziness. Eric Swalwell, just a couple of interesting little stories popping up. He has been charged. He's being accused of sexual assault.
Is he a congressman, representative, or a senator?
He is a former or is he a rep? He might still be a rep, but he's running for governor.
Okay. Yeah, great.
But
he's Congress, in California, right?
California congressman. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, a woman said that she had sexual encounters with him while she worked for him as his assistant, claims that he assaulted her twice when she was too intoxicated to give consent. He, of course, vehemently denies it, and he is threatening legal action against her, saying that for 20 years, he has done nothing but fight for the protections of women in his time as a prosecutor and congressman. And so he is, obviously denying and viciously appalled.
God, what a mess.
Yeah, dude. Well, I guess, I'm sure he thinks it's a politically motivated
it
thing.
could be. I mean, politics is crazy right now. Like everybody's always trying to like take you down at the knees,
Yeah, I guess there was a case where, what was it? Where somebody had enticed a woman to come forward that didn't actually.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
I do.
And then she came forward afterward and been like, yeah, it was bullshit.
I can't remember what that was either.
I'll tell you though, obviously believe the woman first. So you got to go through the process, Mr. Swalwell. And it sucks, but this would be his own words coming back to bite him in that respect.
No, not to bite him. I mean, I think the whole thing that
haunt him, I suppose.
Everybody is unanimous on that believe women means investigate claims. Nobody's asking anybody to just believe women all the way through to the prosecution.
Mm-hmm.
Like you believe women enough to investigate the claims. The reason why believe women is a fucking hashtag at all, like whatever, a slogan at all, is because so often they're not believed. And so nobody ever investigates, right? So there's no chance for justice. I think he's going to handle this really well because he's I think the way that he is describing his record is accurate, and I'm not worried about him. I think he'll do fine.
Yeah, we'll see. It would be really messy for him to get in that kind of a way. But look, man, I don't know anything, and so I hope that justice is served one way or another in that regard. Because I do believe that if he has been wrongfully accused, that the person accusing should suffer consequences.
It's really, really difficult. Like that specific allegation is really difficult. For instance, I have an acquaintance. I don't know him very well, and like I've spoken to him a few times, and he's friends of friends. But he's a very popular like electronic DJ.
Yeah,
in Los Angeles.
Yeah, he was massive at one point. Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of his
somebody
work.
came out against him.
Yeah. Okay. So what happened was that he had a long time ago. He had a really severe accident. He had surgery. Like he had to get the stitches all the way down. Like they opened up his stomach. And so ever since then, he hasn't touched any substances whatsoever.
Was it a lapidectomy?
I don't know what it's called, but whatever. He was like on a scooter or a skateboard or something, and he crashed and it fucked up his inside. So anyway, so the point for bringing that up is that he's totally sober and has been for many, many years, because it'll super like endanger his life if he uses any substances. Anyway, so he was accused by these two women who, after one of his shows, DJs are constantly getting hit on, right? And so he spent the night with these two
I don't know.
women.
Ask Danny Masterson.
It's part of the reason why a lot of them get into it, I think. But
Yeah.
anyway, he took these there were two girls, there were two girlfriends, and they went home with him, and then later on accused him because they had the same allegation that they were too intoxicated to have consented. And so he was shocked and like didn't intend to do anything wrong. So what he did was he found a bunch of camera security footage about them the entire way up until they went into his closed hotel room, and then all the way back away from their closed hotel room after their little rendezvous. And he was able to overturn the charges because in both of the videos, these girls were very much like delighted. Like you could see even after, like when they left the hotel room, they were both like, hanging on him and like having a really nice time. And they were walking straightly, like, so his way of, I know I'm not describing this very well. I know that it sounds awful, but
Straightly is interesting.
his defense was that he didn't know that they were too intoxicated. And it shows in the video that these two girls did not look intoxicated. And so there was no way for him to have been the one to take advantage of them. And afterwards, it's very clear from not just leaving his hotel room with them, but also throughout they stayed in the little hotel complex for a long time and then continued to just like hang out and talk with people. It's like they didn't seem traumatized or harmed at all or anything. So he ended up prevailing, but it was just a really horrible ordeal. And I don't know that you could say that either of those parties are wrong, because if these girls literally the next day don't remember what happened, they might have been upset and feared the worst. And it is really irresponsible to sleep with drunk people, So it's just a really tough situation. Luckily, he had a bunch of videos to prove that they didn't seem like they were hurt or harmed or upset or injured or any of the other things,
Interestingly enough, Victoria here has dropped some information for us. If we shall get sort of on topic, Victoria says, did you guys see that a new motion for summary judgment from TAG asking the judge to dismiss one of the three claims left? I do see that TAG, that the judge has ruled. We'll get into it maybe Monday, but he says that TAG cannot be held directly liable for retaliation under FEHA because it was not involved in any FEHA regulated activities. He also said these are the arguments. These aren't the conclusions. He said in the argument, and the arguments are TAG is not liable for aiding and abetting a violation of FEHA. And there is a conclusion that the judge issued. Do you want to hear it? I don't know how long it is. Oh, look. Oh, well, there's two conclusions. So we'll read this Monday. Victoria, we'll read this on Monday. TAG cannot be held directly. So we'll see, because I know that TAG certainly has been, has been named a defendant in the summary for judgment, right? In the retaliation. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, we'll read that on Monday. There's another drop too, that I just noticed happened a few minutes ago, like half an hour ago. And it was a motion to exclude testimony from Wayfarer expert Nicole Alexander. Let's see. It's a new motion, I guess. So, dear Judge Lyman, we're friends, aren't we? On behalf of the plaintiff Blake Lively, we write pursuant to Rule 4 of the Attachment A, Court's individual rules, respectfully request that the court preliminarily seal Ms. Lively's motion to exclude testimony from Nicole Alexander, as well as, I wonder who she is. But anyway, they're trying to silence her. I wonder what her expertise is. For reference, the deposition of Nicole. Oh, well, there's her deposition.
Of who?
Her name is Nicole Alexander, and we do have her deposition. Maybe we'll read it. I will send you this link, okay? And we can maybe prep this for Monday. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks, Victoria, for the heads up. That was handy. Appreciate you. I really do. All right, so today's day 5. Day 5 of reading the summary judgment, where Blake Lively lost 10 of 13 claims against Justin Baldoni and the Wayfair parties. And I'm of the belief that it was probably best for her to have lost those SH claims, defamation claim, or I guess it was a I don't know what the other ones were, but there was a couple others involved tied directly to them. This is Nicole Depo. I'm just going to call it Nicole Depo Angelo. Send it to you for your reading pleasure.
Thanks, bro.
Anyway, so yeah, we are now in for the final round, ladies and gentlemen. The final round. Little word out to the mods, please. Of course, engage with Baldoni stans who might show up here. If they become belligerent against anyone present, they should be silenced and even hidden from the channel if you find that they are truly egregious. However, if they're just bantering on about Blake is this and Blake is that or whatever, unless they're being wildly offensive in that process, let them fly. And unless, of course, it becomes, dominant in the chat or they're just taking up too much of our time, then you can toss them. All right. But otherwise, let's be respectful of the opposition. Got to have a little tension to have a real party, in my opinion. The Pratty is here saying hi everyone. Hope everyone is well. I am well. Are you well?
Yes, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
It's so sweet to show up someplace and say I hope everyone's well.
Yeah, especially
nice.
in these trying times.
Oh my God, so trying. Did you see all the astrology accounts are like doomsaying again?
They are, but I have a different feeling about it.
Doomsaying more than I've seen them doomsay.
I just think that people don't recognize that, Mars is moving into and conjunct Neptune, moving into Aries and conjunct Neptune for the Palestinians too, like it can be on, courage and the might to overcome are two very powerful significations of Mars, especially Mars in such great condition. So Mars isn't really.
What you're saying though is you're saying that both sides are going to be emboldened in their conflict, and what you're not saying is that anybody's going to reach peace. Let
me tell you, talk about might and the power to overcome, right? The courage and the might to overcome. Well, Donald Trump, in order to save the stock market, he had to stop the war with Iran, right? He had to put a ceasefire in place, right? Pretend he was the man in control, man of the hour, to open up the Strait of Hormuz, right? Well, the next day, Netanyahu, he fired rockets into Lebanon, many of them. Terrible. Breaking that ceasefire. They closed down the strait, and what happened?
He's a saboteur, bro. It's crazy.
Okay, but what happened? He got shut down again. They were like, you got to stop. So Netanyahu announced that they'll resume peace talks with Lebanon. Cool. Guess what happened right after that? Netanyahu's back on trial or on track for his corruption trial, for which he just asked for an extension, a time extension.
Oh, you know what else happened after that?
So that's some Mars in Neptune right there.
You know what else happened after that is that people think that Israel's behind it, but they released more blackmail on Trump.
I mean, nobody at this point, just people don't even care.
I know, they're like, throw it on the pile.
Donald Trump's picking fights with fucking, what's his name? Alex, what's his name? The guy who got Sandy Hook guy.
Oh, Alex Jones.
Yeah, that decrepit piece of shit said that he just come out with, cause he got attacked by a president and the president called him and what's her name? Megyn Kelly. And Tucker Carlson, he called them all low IQ individuals, his favorite thing. He called them all low IQ individuals. This guy who can barely fucking pronounce a 3-syllable word.
All the fucking teenagers in high school are fighting.
So
that's what that is.
Anyway, Alex Jones come out and called him said he was possessed by demons.
Of course.
And
he
it's like,
did.
I just wanted to like, I felt like saying that what you call, that's actually dementia. Actually, it's not
No,
possession.
it's interesting though because this is very much like Neptune and Aries talk. Neptune just entered Aries and thinking everything is demonic or evil versus
Yeah.
good versus evil, framing everything as good versus evil, and being really direct about it and very prideful about it is very much that signification. We're just gonna have like the dumbest fucking rhetoric from these people for like the next 14 years. That's what we're gonna be dealing with this placement.
Well,
So
anyway,
funny.
so he's warring with his own, and that's what I'm talking about with this. You know, this is this is part of the Neptune that I think people weren't banking on, is the potential infighting, the confusion between those who were supporters of this nonsense.
It really is true that this all of everything that's happening is the symptoms of the last gasps of this system,
Yeah.
which has collapsed, and we're watching it happen.
Yeah.
And all of these are just like the death throes, and
They are.
we're stuck in it.
Yeah,
And
we'll see how it goes. But I'm optimistic. While they're doomsaying, I'm saying, and I say the same thing about this ingression. You know, Mars just ingressed today into Aries. I say the same thing about Uranus as it's about to on the 26th or so, thereabouts, 24th, something like that. It will finally make its way into Gemini. It's a very scary place for it historically, but I think that some of that, you know, scary signification, historical precedent is gonna flop. And part of the reason why I say it is because we have a big shift in Pluto being in Aquarius, which is you know, another major massive move going on. So yeah, while Saturn floats across the face of Aries, there's certainly going to be a lot of difficulty, a lot of blockage, and but you know, again, I with Mars there, I think Mars is going to actually help expedite some matters that might be more significant or more indicative of courage and the might to overcome.
Yeah, it is an ignition switch though, which is kind of scary, and I think that's why the astrologers are doomsaying.
I'm just glad Mars is out of Pisces right now. I had my Mars return, and I didn't really have a good time with it at all. You know, and which is weird because like my Mars is in good shape.
Until
Mars
2 years from now when it comes back again.
Mars has triplicity dignity there. You know, it kind of nice. It gets warmed up. That's the other thing. You know, Mars gets warmed up going into, and it gets warmed up emotionally, and so it's going to be an interesting. At least that first 10 degrees, that first decan of Mars of Aries, which is Mars. So Mars in Mars.
The positives about all of this astrology weather is it's a really, really great time to start something new. Like if you've thought about starting something and it's been on the back burner and you don't really have the confidence and whatever, just now is a good time to begin. Spring forward.
All right, before we begin, speaking of, one last thing, which is just if you guys like or hate us, love or hate us, please like the live and allow our opposition and our tension to survive. And the way to help us help us do that is just by liking the live. And if you really like us, subscribe as well. We'd love to you know, see you again and again, even if we're not always on the same page. Victoria is a friend of the show, and me and Victoria agree on very few things.
I was just thinking about how fun it would be to exploit those kinds of comments that say that we're like toxic for each other and just like put up a poll that says, should we divorce?
Should Angela leave Dale high and dry?
Anywho, let's get started. Yeah.
Oh my God, Nadine's back for her second time in a row. This is like the old days. We're back in like 2025 here.
That's great.
God, when we were kids. All right, here we go. We are kicking off the final day. Do you want to do a small, like, you know, whatever lead like you did the other day?
Yeah, okay. So we're almost at the end of the Judge Lyman's ruling on the motion for summary judgment and the motion for judgment on the pleadings. And he is now we're at the part of causation. So he said that yes, there was a retaliation scheme. Okay. There is enough evidence to support that in the record. But now he's saying, was the retaliation scheme caused by Blake Lively's protected activities, which are the complaints about sexual harassment on the set? Okay.
Okay.
And now he's going to describe now about whether there's a cause and effect. Like, so did she complain, and is that directly connected to the retaliation? Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Judge Lyman says, this subheading causation. The final element of Lively's case, establishing that her protected activity was a substantial motivating factor in an adverse employment action, which is the retaliation smear campaign, presents yet more issues of fact for the jury. Are you with me?
I'm right with you.
The question of what motivated an employer's, so this is a quote from another lawsuit. The question of what motivated an employer's desire to engage in the alleged retaliatory conduct is a quintessential jury function. And I love it when judges do this, where they're like, the jury is the fact finder. I mean, they are the fact finders. So we have to leave it for them. If there's any question about what's like the differences between the plaintiffs and the defendants, facts of the case. Okay?
Yeah.
The Wayfair parties argue that Lively has failed to demonstrate the requisite temporal proximity between her complaints and the alleged retaliatory smear campaign. This is one of their allegations from the beginning, where they're saying that she has the 17 points documents in November, and then it wasn't until the next year in August that she alleges that a smear campaign started. There was no way that much time had lapsed between what she says is the cause and then what is the effect. And to me, that isn't compelling at all, because you can be paranoid about something for a really long time and then decide to bury somebody for what you think is bad behavior or what's going to happen. It doesn't matter how much time has lapsed. There's no,
Certainly not. Certainly within the time context of this dispute.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was from before their second shoot started, right after the labor strikes concluded.
Yeah.
And then to right before the premiere. So that's still within the same project.
Yeah, obviously.
It doesn't seem like that's a temporal issue at all. The Wayfair parties argue that Lively has failed to demonstrate the requisite temporal proximity between her complaints and the alleged retaliatory smear campaign, arguing that the long temporal gap between her protected activity and an alleged instance of retaliation alone defeats her claims. But California law imposes no requisite temporal proximity between protected activity and an adverse employment action. Instead, what is required is conduct consistent with a retaliatory intent, noting that the circumstances might establish a causal connection even if a long period elapsed between the protected activity and the terminations. This is a citation from another lawsuit where the retaliation was firing. Okay?
Okay.
Lively has identified evidence that, if credited, could support an inference that the Wayfair parties took adverse employment action against her, at least in part because of her protected activity. Protected activity, again, being that she complained about what she thought was misconduct. After Lively raised her complaints in the protections letter, Baldoni felt angry. These are quotes. Baldoni felt, and these are his quotes, angry, furious, and sad. Okay? And he felt, in quotes, embarrassed after the all-hands meeting.
And while he didn't say threatened, he certainly talked about being threatened.
Yes. A jury could draw the inference that at that moment he had a motive to retaliate, but an incentive not to do so. The Wayfair parties still needed Lively to finish the film, and Baldoni expressed concern that his behavior becoming public.
I'm going to kill her right after.
But once the film was released, that reason for not acting would have dissipated. Thus, a jury could find that the Wayfair parties waited to exact their retaliation at an opportune time. Forgive me, there's a footnote here and I missed where it goes in, so let me just back up a little bit. Okay. This is about the previous paragraph where the time between the protected activity and the retaliation isn't the jam in California law, but what is the jam is what's required is conduct consistent with a retaliatory intent, even if a long time period elapsed between the protected activity and the retaliation. And the footnote says, the cases the Wayfair parties cite for their temporal proximity rule hold that a plaintiff might be able to establish a causal connection by demonstrating a close temporal connection between protected activity and adverse employment actions. In other words, the Wayfair parties have taken a sufficient condition and turned it into a necessary one. And even if this were a necessary condition, these are legal terms, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And even if this was a necessary condition, California courts have sustained jury verdicts where the gap between protected activity and the adverse act was far longer than the 7 months here between the all-hands meeting and the alleged smear campaign. That's very interesting. Okay, continuing. To be sure, a jury could also find that something other than retaliation explains the actions of the Wayfair parties. As they argue, they had a legitimate interest in protecting their reputations and the reception of their film against negative press that would have taken steps to do so regardless of Lively's protected activity. But retaliatory intent is not an all or nothing matter. Even under the higher but for causation standard, a plaintiff need not demonstrate that retaliation was the only cause of the employer's action. And given the nature of the response, a jury could find that the Wayfair parties were motivated not just by fear of what would be disclosed, but by the protected actions Lively had taken in the past. Lively has accordingly demonstrated genuine issues of material fact with respect to all three elements of her FEHA retaliation claim. The motion for summary judgment as to this claim is denied. And so this was the last of those three. I spoke about the other two yesterday.
Victoria said that she signed off saying that everything went well during the second half of the film. And I'm so surprised that most people who support Baldoni in this thing don't recognize the trouble that causes just in terms on its face.
She had to put the hammer down.
If she put the hammer down and then things went well, what does that say about the first half?
It's actually really bad.
You know, it's like a really bad thing. If everyone agrees, including Ange Gianetti in her testimony, by the way, pretty much everybody, including Baldoni, they actually touted it as some kind of like, see, everything was great after that.
Everything went well because she mandated that there be more supervision of him.
She also mandated that things stopped. And they stopped. Yeah. See, you see what I'm saying? Like the problem is like you can't, it's not a good thing for them that it went. It's not a good thing for the Wayfair parties that things, or particularly for Baldoni and Heath, that things went well after she put the hammer down. Because that meant that she had to put the hammer down in order for things to go well.
That's right.
See how we put that together? It's real easy.
Yeah, the things, especially like when you take into account that the things that she was asking for was like any time that Blake Lively is on set, the intimacy coordinators with her.
And that's that's probably the biggest one here.
That's a big one.
That's probably the biggest one there.
We're going to bring on another producer who's also going to be present all the time from another company, not from Wayfair.
So now we got a supervisor on board, right?
Yeah,
so now we have a witness.
He was being supervised and she was being protected.
Yeah.
And that is why nothing bad happened after. It's crazy. That's very cause and effect scenario. Should I continue? There's more.
Yeah, please.
Okay, this subheading, aiding and abetting liability. This is in response to Tag, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious why he dropped the conspiracy cause of action of Lively's, but this is aiding and abetting.
We're in causation right now, right? Or not yet?
I have concluded causation.
Oh, really? That was the end of it?
Yeah.
Okay. So now it's just aiding and abetting. Okay.
Count 7 charges Abel, Nathan, and Tag with aiding and abetting retaliation. The Wayfair parties argue principally that Count 7 must be dismissed because there's no primary FEHA retaliation liability. The court has now rejected that argument. However, Abel and Nathan are nonetheless entitled to summary judgment on a different basis. And I think they've filed that today, right?
I think so.
I think they filed a motion today. Anywho. FEHA makes it an unlawful employment practice for any person to aid, abet, incite, compel, or coerce the doing of any of the acts forbidden under this part, or to attempt to do so. California courts have imported the common law definition of aiding and abetting into the FEHA, in quotes, a person aids and abets the commission of an intentional tort if the person A, knows the other's conduct constitutes a breach of duty and gives substantial assistance or encouragement to the other to do so, the other to so act. And this, I think, is evident when Baldoni sends the text message, this is what we would need, and his publicists didn't talk him off that ledge. That his publicists weren't like, oh, yeah, well, we can't exactly do defamation here, buddy. Instead, they were like, we're on it, boss. You know? Okay, a person aids and abets the commission of an intentional tort if the person also, B, gives substantial assistance to the other in accomplishing a tortious result and the person's own conduct, separately considered, constitutes a breach of duty to the third person. Does that make sense to you?
I don't know.
I think that's substantial assistance. so I guess he does the bad thing, but they assist him in it. So it's if they do the bad thing for him, or if he does the bad thing and they assist him. Got it?
Got it.
In the case Reno versus Baird, the California Supreme Court held that individual non-employer individuals, such as supervisors, cannot be held directly liable for discrimination under FEHA. The court reasoned that the legislature did not intend to place individual employees charged with making personnel decisions on behalf of their employer at risk of personal liability for those decisions. This is why they're not being charged. This is why they're not getting retaliation. They're getting aiding and abetting instead. Okay. Let's see. The court reasoned that the legislature did not intend to place individual employees charged with making personnel decisions on behalf of their employer at risk of personal liability for those decisions, especially given that FEHA only covers employers with 5 or more employees, and it would be inconceivable that small employers were shielded from FEHA claims while individual supervisors were not. For largely the same reasons, more importantly, for present purposes, the court also held that even though FEHA's aiding and abetting provision covers any person, individual non-employers such as supervisors cannot be held liable for aiding and abetting discrimination. The court explained that because individual supervisors are not directly liable for discrimination under FEHA, it was implausible that the legislature nonetheless intended for them to be personally liable for the the legislature nonetheless intended for them to be personally liable by the roundabout method of aiding and abetting language. Okay, this is all background. I don't know that we need all this. Okay, California Supreme Court regarding personal liability for individual non-employers. Okay.
So some kind of indemnity there.
You want me to read it?
If you think it's relevant, you should.
Accordingly, there can be no aiding and abetting liability for individual non-employers on a theory of either discrimination or retaliation where the individual is acting as an agent for the employer. Aiding and abetting liability instead applies to third parties such as customers or suppliers who induce or coerce conduct prohibited under FEHA. For example, in this Alk v. Superior Court, the court held that talent agencies could be liable for age discrimination inflicted on television writers by the television networks and studios that employed the writers. The agencies knew that the studios were engaged in a course of systemic age discrimination and gave substantial assistance or encouragement to that course by virtue of their own referral practices, which allegedly screened out older writers in favor of younger ones. That's fucked. Ageism, bro. Accordingly, the court held that the talent agencies acted as a sort of outside third-party supplier for the studios rather than as their agents. Here, Nathan and Abel were hired by Wayfarer and It Ends With Us movie, the production company, to perform services on their behalf as their agents. Unlike the talent agents in that lawsuit, Nathan and Abel were not outside third parties who coerced, induced, or substantially assisted an employer's discrimination or retaliation. Instead, they were, for all intents and purposes, individual employees carrying out alleged adverse employment actions at the direction of the employer. In such circumstances, liability attaches against the employer. I don't know if that makes sense to me. Against.
I'm struggling.
These are like legal term, like legal phrasings that I'm not familiar with. Okay. A different conclusion might be warranted with respect to tag. The California Supreme Court held in this Raines versus U.S. HealthWorks Medical Group. That's really funny. U.S. HealthWorks. My mother worked for U.S. HealthWorks and got completely fucking boned on her retirement. They pulled one of those fucking stunts where they like fire the person right before they get their pension. And she was just like aghast because she worked there for decades and like was a supervisor. It's just fucked. So I'm not surprised that they were in litigation. Anyway, the California Supreme Court held that unlike individual non-employers such as supervisors, an employer's business entity agents can be held directly liable under the FEHA for employment discrimination in inappropriate circumstances when the business entity agent has at least 5 employees and carries out FEHA regulated activities on behalf of an employer. The court based this holding on its determination that the considerations that motivated its decisions in in those cases are either absent or much diminished in a case where a business entity agent acts as an independent contractor or an employer, for an employer, I'm sorry. For one, such entities are more likely to be able to negotiate over issues of indemnification and therefore less likely to be burdened by concerns about liability and carrying out their responsibilities on behalf of their employer. In reaching this conclusion, the California Supreme Court expressly did not address whether aiding and abetting liability might apply to business entity agents, but there's at least some reason to believe that it does, given that, number one, business entity agents can be directly liable for substantive FEHA violations, and number two, the California Supreme Court treated issues of direct liability and aiding and abetting liability similarly in that case, Reno. I didn't realize that this was all going to be a little in the weeds, but he's setting a foundation for this.
Yeah.
The parties have not addressed this issue at any length. They have instead treated the aiding and abetting defendants without differentiation, meaning Nathan, Abel, and the business tag. Okay? They have not differentiated them. The court therefore withholds judgment with respect to whether Tag might be liable for aiding and abetting FEHA retaliation because Nathan and Abel cannot be held personally liable for aiding and abetting retaliation. Judgment must be granted in their favor. The motion for summary judgment with respect to Tag is denied without prejudice.
So they're still on the hook.
Tag is on the hook.
Yeah.
Nathan and Abel are not. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever. Put that fucking place out of business. You know what I mean?
But it's also, how is it any different that the person is out of a lawsuit, but their business that is their own business, like they're the person who runs it? I don't understand how that.
Well, because this country treats companies like entity, like people.
Yeah.
Like living, biological, breathing entities, and so they're separate from us.
Okay. Continuing. Failure to prevent sexual harassment. Okay?
Yeah.
Count 6 of Lively's amended complaint.
Yeah.
Second Amendment complaint. Charges the production company and Wayfair with failing to investigate, prevent, or remedy harassment in violation of FEHA. 2 provisions under FEHA are relevant to this claim, which states that an entity shall take all reasonable steps to prevent harassment from occurring. This language appears in the same provision which prohibits harassment, including the maintenance of a hostile work environment. Courts have therefore read the failure to prevent language in subsequent, I'm struggling today. Courts have therefore read the failure to prevent language in subsection J1 as informing harassment claims rather than as creating a standalone tort. Section 12940K separately provides that it is unlawful for an employer, a labor organization, an employment agency, an apprenticeship training program, or any training program leading to employment to fail to take all reasonable steps necessary to prevent discrimination and harassment from occurring. The California Supreme Court has described this provision as establishing a separate unlawful employment practice. Nonetheless, regulations promulgating under that section provide that there is no standalone private cause of action under the provision unless the plaintiff also pleads and prevails on the underlying claim of discrimination, harassment, or retaliation. That's interesting.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you can't
charge somebody
with something that
failure to prevent harassment if you haven't proven harassment.
And she's not going to be able to do so.
That's interesting. So maybe there's another lawsuit after, right?
No, there isn't, because
if she prevails, then she could
How
sue.
can she prevail? The SH is thrown out.
No. This is a hostile work environment. Oh, yeah, because that didn't. Okay.
The hostile. She can't.
Gotcha.
This is just, tied to the other, and so it gets, it dies. It's similar death.
Okay, this one, he's citing previous lawsuits held that there can be no liability under subsection K without finding of actionable harassment, and collecting cases holding the same, explaining that if this other case explains that a failure to prevent or remedy discrimination or harassment claim fails in the absence of a viable underlying claim. This other case says because the court dismisses the harassment claim as untimely, it also dismisses its failure to prevent the harassment claim. So Judge Lyman says the court has granted summary judgment on Lively's FEHA harassment claim. Judgment must therefore also be granted on her failure to prevent harassment claim. Okay, so it is a like if then conclusion. Okay. False light invasion of privacy. Let me just take a drink. What are you doing?
I'm just emailing myself coherence. Do you remember who it was that just recommended that to us? Was that Jacqueline?
No.
It was.
No, I don't know who it was. I think it was. But you asked if I remembered and I didn't.
I'll scroll up.
False light invasion of privacy. Lively's 10th cause of action asserts a claim against the Wayfarer parties for false light invasion of privacy in violation of Article 1, Section 1 of the California Constitution. Generally, this tort occurs when a defendant invades the plaintiff's privacy by publicity that places the plaintiff in a false light in the public eye. Lively's claim fails because it's governed by New York law, and New York law recognizes no such tort. You can just lie about a motherfucker in New York.
And ain't nobody gonna do nothing.
Lively argues that she can bring a common law claim for false light invasion of privacy under California law because, one, the parties included a California choice of law provision in the actor's loan-out agreement. And number two, her claim turns on conduct which occurred in California, especially the execution of the communication strategy from that state. As for the first contention, the actor's loan-out agreement is an unexecuted agreement and does not create binding obligations between the parties. Its choice of law provision, therefore, cannot provide a basis for the application of California law to Lively's false light invasion of privacy claim. As for the second assertion, which was conduct which occurred in California, especially the execution of the communication strategy from that state. So Judge Lyman says, as for that second assertion, the facts alleged in the second amended complaint and proffered by Lively in opposition to the Wayfarer party's motion for summary judgment do not support the application of California law. That is because the relevant choice of law principles in this context focus primarily on whether the injury occurred, where the injury occurred, rather than where the liability creating conduct arose. That's interesting.
That is interesting.
So even though they did a smear campaign from California, she was injured in New York where she lives. So that's the law that prevails? The law that doesn't exist?
That's so weird.
It seems like the people perpetrating the attack should abide by the laws in their state.
So if I
They're the ones that are breaking the law.
the murder of somebody in another state, it's those state laws that where the murder occurs.
Not your conduct where you are.
Not my conduct where I'm.
If you're breaking the law where you are, it doesn't matter if you attack somebody someplace else. Is that what they're saying?
Well, it does matter, but they're saying it matters where the injury occurred and not where the.
Weird. Okay, this is
crime
because the
was
relevant
initiated.
choice of law principles in this context focus primarily on where the injury occurred rather than where the liability creating conduct arose. There's a footnote here. As explained previously, this stands in contrast to the extraterritoriality analysis in Section 3, discussing the conceptually distinct issues of extraterritoriality and choice of law analysis. Okay, whatever.
Whatevs.
It sucks, man. A federal court sitting in diversity borrows the forum state's choice of law rule. Another citation. Interest analysis is in the relevant analytical approach to choice of law in tort actions in New York. Another citation. In determining which jurisdiction has the most significant interest in the dispute, courts look chiefly to the parties' domiciles and the locus of the tort. Another citation. The locus of the tort is generally determined by the place where the plaintiff suffered injury. This factor is particularly determinative where the law at issue is conduct regulating, meaning that it is used as a guide to govern individuals' primary conduct and acts as a prophylactic to prevent injuries from occurring, rather than as a way to prohibit, assign, or limit liability after a tort occurs. False light invasion of privacy is a conduct relating tort. Thus, Lively's place of domicile determines the laws to be applied unless some other state has a more significant relationship to the issues or the parties. So if she lived in California, she would be able to sue them for this.
Yeah.
But because she lives in New York.
Yeah, it's fucked up. It's just so weird because it's like blueprints for committing offenses against people.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, here's how to do it, man.
God.
Here's the blueprint.
New York has the most significant interest in this claim, while there is evidence of conduct occurring in California. Lively resides in New York and would have suffered her injury in New York. She does not explain why California has a more significant relationship to the issue or parties other than by relying on the unadopted choice of law provision and the Wayfair party's location when they committed the alleged tortious conduct. Without more, that is insufficient to overcome the presumption of the law of plaintiff's domicile should apply in this type of case. I'm sorry if I misread that.
It's all right, but it's understood and it's
New
weird.
York law does not recognize a claim for the false light invasion of privacy. The claim must therefore be denied. So she just kept...
Boo.
Lively keeps losing on jurisdiction.
Yeah. Well, it's difficult, and this is like...
It sucks.
It's just so interesting because clearly, this is more common now than ever. People are working for other companies in different states, for companies in different states all the time now, not just actors. And, this is now a fairly common thing, remote employee is not necessarily, if it's a remote employee, doesn't necessarily, obviously if you're working for the government, it would be a different story, but.
How absolutely bonkers is it that New York doesn't have a false light invasion of privacy tort? What are you guys doing?
That's what we sued Leo for that.
You did?
I believe so. Maybe, did we? I don't know.
Okay. Here we go. Defamation. Lively brings a claim for defamation against the Wayfair parties based on allegedly false and defamatory statements made about her through their lawyer, Brian Friedman, after she filed the CRD complaint and during the course of this litigation. The alleged defamatory statements are as follows. On December 21st, 2024, the day after Lively filed her complaint with the California Civil Rights Division, Friedman made the following statement to the New York Times. All right, here's my impression. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do an impression. In quotes, "It is shameful that Miss Lively and her representatives would make such serious and categorically false accusations against Mr. Baldoni, Wayfair Studios, and its representatives as yet another desperate attempt to fix her negative reputation, which was garnered from her own remarks and actions during the campaign for the film. Interviews and press activities that were observed publicly in real time and unedited, which allowed for the internet to generate their own views and opinions. These claims are completely false, outrageous, and intentionally salacious with an intent to publicly hurt and rehash a narrative in the media." And then on January 7th, 2025, after Lively filed her complaint in this court, Brian Friedman stated in an interview for the Megyn Kelly show, in quotes, "And for an executive producer to have a competing cut of a film is incredibly bizarre. But when she starts threatening people and saying, I'm not going to promote the film, I'm not going to do anything unless you use my cut, that's when it starts to be awfully incendiary. And, the concern really is that she used these allegations of sexual harassment and she used these allegations of bullying to try and leverage her position so that she could be the de facto director in the case." A week later, on January 18th, 2025, 2 days after the Wayfair parties filed their complaint against Lively in the related litigation, Brian Friedman stated to Deadline this quote. Are you ready?
"She's a stupid bitch and I slapped her.
After my clients filed a comprehensive lawsuit packed with almost 200 pages, all of which I billed very heavily for.
Yeah, I worked day and night. And by the way, at night I charged time and a half.
And I built a website and I did I did a timeline. Okay. This guy took so much money from them. Okay. Brian Friedman says, "After my clients filed a comprehensive lawsuit packed with almost 200 pages of undeniable facts and documentary evidence."
So undeniable that the judge threw them all out. Every fucking one of those undeniable facts were
documentary
denied.
evidence that actually was against his claims. Okay. 200 pages of undeniable facts and documentary evidence which crushed their false allegations of a smear campaign by providing doctored communications to the New York Times. Blake and her legal team have just one heinous pivot left, and that is to double down on the revoltingly false sexual allegations against Mr. Baldoni.
I just can't believe she didn't get away with this shit.
I know.
This is crazy
The
talk.
mere fact that Miss Lively feels that she can publicly destroy Mr. Baldoni's reputation in an attempt to devastate his future career and then deny him or his team their own ability to defend theirselves. That's a miss. They wrote the little sick,
Yeah.
That's what he said. and deny him or his team their own ability to defend themselves against her is preposterous. Mr. Baldoni never once publicly attempted to call Miss Lively out for her own many wrongdoings during filming. He kindly addressed all of her concerns during filming in the correct manner, despite the fact that he wholly disagreed. He himself was committed to doing things differently and to keep the peace, as she specifically admitted to in her own lawsuit. We will not only continue to defend our clients against Lively's power, privilege, and all-out lies, but we will now fight even harder for the voiceless in the DV community who are unfairly suffering while she continues to push on her own self-serving and selfish vendetta in the media.
Can you believe the depths that these people are willing to steep to
I can't
fucking,
believe that's an attorney and not like
and that they're
a Fox
using
News
victims of DV to
spokesperson.
try and sling arrows?
Yeah, of course.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty gross,
man.
bro.
It's gross.
Then again, because he was so busy billing for every one of the hours that he said this on one of these shows, I'm sure. On January 25th, 2025, Brian Friedman stated to the New York Post's page 6, "We will always respect the court. However, we will never be bullied by those suggesting we cannot defend our clients with pure, unedited facts. All we want is for people to see the actual text messages that directly contradict her allegations, video footage that clearly shows there was no sexual harassment, and all the other powerful evidence that directly contradicts any false allegations of sexual harassment and subsequent smear campaign. It seems that in a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act."
Oh, fuck you. This guy's so disgusting. He's also credibly accused of sexual assault.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you see somebody who is so willing to put the sheep's clothing on. Like, he's very much talking the talk as if he's on the other side when he's like, he knows what he's doing. He knows that we've seen him in the text messages, like coordinating the smear campaign with everybody else. It's really remarkable, you know, crazy. Okay. Should I continue?
Yeah, please.
Judge Lyman continues. Okay. The Wayfair parties argue that Lively cannot prove falsity or malice, that the statements are ones of opinion, that they are shielded by the First Amendment, and that they are absolutely privileged under California's litigation privilege and New York's fair report privilege. The court need not engage in a choice of law analysis, as the parties agree that there is no conflict between New York and California law with respect to the specific arguments raised. New York and California both extend protections for reports of judicial proceedings. New York statute Section 74 provides a civil action cannot be maintained against any person, film, or corporation for the publication of a fair and true report of any judicial proceeding, legislative proceeding, or other official proceeding, or for any heading of the report which is a fair and true head note of the statement published. The fair and true report privilege has been described as an absolute privilege that's not defeated by the presence of malice or bad faith. Another citation, cases finding 74 protection have held that a report of a judicial or other official proceeding can take many forms. The privilege has been extended to comments made by attorneys to the press in connection with the representation of their clients. A bunch of citations here. A report need not be balanced to be fair and true. Summary of client's position is fair and accurate. It is sufficient that the account given is substantially accurate. This is another citation. A fair and true report admits of some liberality. The exact words of every proceeding need not be given if the substance be substantially stated. Okay, here's another citation. Section 74 does not afford protection if the specific statements at issue, considered in their context, suggest more serious conduct than that actually suggested in the official proceeding. Moreover, another citation, if context includes that a challenged portion of a publication focuses exclusively on underlying events rather than an official proceeding related to those events, that portion is insufficiently connected to the proceeding and to constitute a report of that proceeding. Sorry, this is all a little bit in the weeds. Let me just skim here. Spare you guys this. Basically, if he's talking about his case, he can say what he wants because it's his opinion and it's protected. Okay. if the context in which the statement is made makes it impossible for the ordinary viewer or reader to determine whether the publication was reporting on a judicial proceeding, the absolute privilege does not apply. In assessing the relevant context, courts must give the entire disputed language a fair reading in the context of the publication as a whole. Okay, Judge Lyman says, it is evident from the context here that each of the statements alleged to be defamatory constitute a report with respect to a judicial proceeding. The December 21st statement was made immediately after Lively filed the CRD complaint. It referred explicitly to the accusations against the Wayfair parties and the claims made by Lively. It was made by Lively's attorney. It was made by Lively's attorney to the New York Times reporter in connection with a report on the CRD complaint. It would have been obvious from context that Friedman was referring to the accusations made by Lively and to the expected response. In other words, that the claims were false, outrageous, and intentionally malicious with an intent to publicly hurt and rehash a narrative in the media. The fair report privilege applies to a party who communicates a complaint to the press before that complaint is publicly filed. A similar principle must apply with respect to a party who communicates a response to a complaint before that response is publicly filed. Okay, I understand this. I think. So because Lively's lawyer spoke to the press and then he was responding, it's fair game. Because
But he's. I'm not going to argue with you about it. But
it was an article that had both sides. Even though he said something incendiary, he was responding. Even if it was like because both sides are doing this, I think. Even before it was filed. Okay, whatever.
Well, I mean, I understand the idea of, but there are no lines to be crossed. If an attorney says I'm filing a lawsuit against, Justin Baldoni for,
and then the
the
other attorney says she's a lying bitch.
Yeah, she's a lying scumbag, and everyone knows that. All you have to do is look at her past to see that she's a lying scumbag. Like especially when
weird,
the
right?
judge has already ruled in this document that they retaliated, that in all likelihood they retaliated, and that a jury could reasonably find that they retaliated.
What these citations are suggesting is that as long as he says she was a lying bitch in her lawsuit, then he's talking about, then he has a privilege to report.
Yeah, but he's saying that her
about
past,
judicial proceedings.
Her past.
No. I'm saying that in your example, she's a lying bitch.
Yeah.
These citations from previous rulings suggest that if he says she was a lying bitch in her lawsuit, then it's all fair because he's talking about that he has First Amendment protections because he's talking about a lawsuit. Interesting.
Crazy, man.
That was about the first statement. The January 7th, 18th, and 25 comments all likewise refer to the allegations made by Lively and to the Wayfair party's response. Given their timing, content, and context, especially the person who made them, the comments could only have been understood as a reflection of the Wayfair party's view of what the evidence would show in the judicial proceeding, rather than as a testimonial by Friedman with respect to the underlying facts. The January 7th statement was made in the immediate aftermath of Lively's complaint in this court. While it does not explicitly reference the complaint, it is plain from the context that it refers to the complaint. It is undisputed that, as Friedman stated on January 7th, Lively was the executive producer and that she generated a competing cut of the film and refused to promote it with Baldoni. What the statement adds is the claim that Lively made her complaints about sexual harassment as leverage to become the de facto director of the film. But Friedman's statements mirrored those he made in court on behalf of the Wayfair parties little more than a week later to undercut Lively's allegations in her complaint. Friedman's January 18th statement to Deadline directly referred to the comprehensive lawsuit that the Wayfair parties had filed, his efforts to continue to defend his clients, and assertions that Lively had purportedly specifically admitted to in her own lawsuit. The article in which these statements appeared framed Friedman's statements as a response to the January 16th response from Lively's attorneys and the Wilkie Farrar Gallagher lawyers to Baldoni's long-expected lawsuit. That is, the article was titled, Justin Baldoni's lawyer decries revoltingly false sexual allegations from Blake Lively as lawsuits fly. Brands at business heart of dispute. Deadline, January 18th, 2025. Similarly, the January 25th statement was made shortly after Lively asked the court to enter a protective order, and in it, Friedman referred to respecting the court and the evidence that would undermine Lively's allegations of sexual harassment. Moreover, none of the statements suggested conduct more serious than that suggested in the Wayfair parties in court responses to Lively's allegations. Rather than admit and take accountability for her, this is a quote from the Wayfair's amended complaint, the first amended complaint. Rather than admit and take accountability for her own mishaps, she chose to blame the Wayfair parties in a malicious and unforgivably public manner when she and Reynolds could not force Baldoni and Wayfair to read a statement she and her representatives prepared, extorting them to take accountability in defense of Lively's actions. She lay in wait for months preparing to publicly attack Baldoni by falsely claiming that he had sexually harassed her. The same falsified stories she had calculatedly devised and used throughout the production of this film in order to take control were now being used publicly to destroy Baldoni and the Wayfair parties. That's the quote. Also, Lively orchestrated a malicious attack on the reputations, careers, and personal lives of the Wayfair parties, subjecting them to public humiliation, threats, and vitriol. Okay, so what he's saying is the lawsuit that he filed in court was filled with all of these like personal ad hominem attacks and lies about Blake Lively. Okay?
Yeah.
And because what he was saying in the press was not any worse than what he filed in his own lawsuit, it's fair.
Yeah, well, this is
Isn't
how
this crazy?
Yeah, it's totally crazy. This is how he and this. I mean, it's a terrible precedent. Obviously, fortunately, most lawyers are not going to stoop to the kind of fucking grotesque behavior that he
Yeah, they
has
care about the reputation
because they care more
They
about
wanna
the
be
reputation.
professionals.
They want to be professionals. They want to be able to represent someone other than a fucking scumbag. The guy's disgusting in every possible way. And I can't, I just think that birds of a feather flock together. I think that,
this is the company
that
you keep.
his choice in publicists, Baldoni's choice in publicists, Baldoni's choice in lawyers says a lot more about him than even the claims against him.
But that little excerpt from his, I mean, obviously Judge Lyman picked the worst rhetoric from that lawsuit. And he was like, listen, the guy said that in his lawsuit. And then he went and told the press all this other bullshit, but it wasn't worse than what he had in the lawsuit. So you can't attack him for what he said in the press when he's just like citing his own bullshit case. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, because the judge threw the case out, called the case basically laughable in so doing. So basically, he can file a case. Like, this is why he should have been found frivolous on the filing.
Yeah, because he played the court. He used the court as an instrument of a smear campaign.
To create a smear campaign. They're literally, like, this is the thing, Victoria, that you're defending. They're using legalities, loopholes, legal loopholes to continue the smear campaign against Blake Lively. And we know that's true because he threw that lawsuit out and it was basically laughable. The lawsuit was basically laughable. And the judge admonished the attorneys during his response to that summary judgment. So, I mean, yeah, if you want to support people like that, that's your business. But you're in the company of scum.
I actually love this part because it's such a projection. Brian Friedman wrote in his lawsuit that Lively orchestrated, like, how much opposite day is this? It's crazy. Lively orchestrated a malicious attack on the reputations, careers, and personal lives of the Wayfair parties, subjecting them to public humiliation, threats, and vitriol. I'm sorry, who are we talking about?
It's a weird thing because it suddenly became that's the way things are done now. Like politicians, especially Donald Trump, but politicians in general, they just project what they do onto their opponents.
Deny.
It's Darvo.
Attack, reverse victim, and offender.
And they use it as a mean, and they use it in legal loopholes like this. It's surprising to me that the judge doesn't have the wherewithal to be able to like put an end to it. Because this ought to have precedent against it. There ought to be boundaries, especially when this ruling comes after he threw this case out and cited that the case was a joke. I'm paraphrasing.
Lively relies on Judge Kaplan's opinion in the E. Jean Carroll versus Trump case. Okay. But that case bears little resemblance to this one. While the statement at issue in that case was made during the pendency of a legal proceeding and its subject matter overlapped with the proceeding.
I don't think Brian Friedman knows what pendency means.
No. This is Judge Lyman.
I know.
So he's talking to Brian Friedman and he doesn't know words. Okay. While the statement at issue in this case was made during the pendency of a legal proceeding, I don't know what pendency means. The pendency of a legal proceeding and its subject matter overlapped with the proceeding. Nothing about the content or context of the statement made it a report of a judicial proceeding. The statement instead constituted an amalgamation of Mr. Trump's personal views and comments on a wide range of subjects, including the legal system of the United States and of New York, this court, Ms. Carroll and her rape accusations against him, CNN and its journalist Anderson Cooper, and Ms. Carroll's counsel. Indeed, the way in which it was stylized belied any notion that the defendant was even attempting to provide a fair and true report of a judicial proceeding. In this case, by contrast, the statements at issue were made by counsel, not a precipient witness, and they were both framed in terms of the issues raised in court and consistent with the Wayfarer party's in-court positions. Any ordinary viewer or reader would therefore understand that Friedman was commenting on a judicial proceeding. The Wayfarer parties are entitled to summary judgment on the defamation claim. I didn't know that the defamation claim was just for Friedman. I didn't know that. I mean, I guess I should have, but...
Yeah, I did.
Maybe I missed that in the Second Amendment amended complaint. Okay, last one. Conspiracy. Okay? Lively's final cause of action alleges civil conspiracy against each of the Wayfarer parties. In her memorandum of law in opposition to the motion for summary judgment, Lively clarifies that her conspiracy claim is limited to 3 things. Number 1, are you with me?
Yes.
Civil conspiracy to retaliate under Title VII, FEHA, and California's Labor Code against the production company and Wayfarer. Number 2, conspiracy to commit false light as to Wayfarer, Baldoni, Heath, Sarowitz, Nathan, Tagg, and Abel. And number 3, conspiracy to commit defamation and defamation per se against Wayfarer, Baldoni, and Heath. Civil conspiracy is not an independent cause of action under either California or New York law, but rather a legal doctrine that imposes liability on persons who, although not actually committing a tort themselves, share with the immediate tortfeasors.
I didn't know about that. That sounds like a fucking horror movie.
A common plan or design in its perpetration. You're nothing but a tortfeasor. Okay, sorry.
He's a tortfeasor.
There's no conspiracy claim unless the underlying tort
it's
is
one word.
committed
I didn't
and
know it was
damaged.
one word.
I'm sorry.
I didn't know it was one word, tortfeasor.
You looked it up?
A tortfeasor is an individual entity that commits a tort.
A tortfeasor.
Doesn't it sound like a new book by John Grisham?
Sounds like the name of somebody's cat.
Tortfeasor.
If you're like super nerdy and you get a cat, you got to name it tortfeasor. Whatever.
I bet you there are a few lawyers out there who have tortfeasors. like maybe rodents, like their little hamster tortfeasor.
That's perfect. And he's running on the wheel. They're like, look, he's doing it right now.
I think it's the tortfeasor trying to get away.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you, but tortfeasor really, I want to get a short. I want to get a shirt.
A short?
A short. I want to get a shirt that says, and turn into a feature actually, and call it tortfeasor. Yeah.
Civil conspiracy is not an independent cause of action under either California or New York law, but rather a legal doctrine that imposes liability on persons who, although not actually committing a tort themselves, share with the immediate tortfeasors a common plan or design in its perpetration. Yes. There is no conspiracy claim unless the underlying tort is committed and damage results therefrom. The court has granted judgment on the Title VII and California Labor Code false light and defamation claims. Accordingly, there can be no conspiracy liability for these claims, and the Wayfarer parties are entitled to summary judgment on the claim of civil conspiracy to violate those laws or commit those torts. The Wayfarer parties are also entitled to summary judgment on the claim of conspiracy to commit retaliation under FEHA. Regardless of whether New York or California's law of conspiracy governs, Lively cannot accomplish by way of civil conspiracy what she is unable to under FEHA itself. As detailed above, FEHA permits aiding and abetting claims under certain circumstances, but it also places specific limitations on that form of liability. Lively cites no authority, and the court has found none, permitting a party to evade the carefully drawn limitations on aiding and abetting liability under FEHA by the artifice of pleading the claim in conspiracy. In fact, courts have recognized just the opposite. As one court has explained, the California legislature carefully delineated the scope of liability for another's conduct under FEHA, limiting it to those who aid, abet, incite, compel, or coerce the doing of a prohibited act. Accordingly, a civil conspiracy claim, which exceeds the scope of FEHA's aiding and abetting provision, cannot be brought. I guess that's a my bad by her attorneys. Seems like that's something that should be known.
Yeah. That does seem like they didn't know that part of the law.
And here we are. Conclusion. The motions for judgment on the pleadings and summary judgment are granted in part and denied in part. Judgment is granted in the wayfarer party's favor with respect to all counts in the second amended complaint, except for 1, Lively's fourth cause of action for retaliation and violation of FEHA against the production company It Ends With This Movie and Wayfarer.
Ouch.
Number 2, Lively's seventh cause of action against TAG for aiding and abetting retaliation in violation of FEHA.
Ouch.
And 3, Lively's ninth cause of action for breach of the CRA, the contract writer agreement against It Ends With Us Movie, the production company.
Yeah, I think that's the least of their worries, that one, for sure.
So ordered. Wouldn't that be dope to just, like, you become a judge and then you get to
You
sign
say
everything
so ordered
about everything?
Sounds like a kink you'd throw around in the
At
bedroom.
home, you're like, clean your room. So ordered. That's stupid.
Well, no, they have a back and forth, and then he draws up the agreement, so ordered, and hands it to his kid.
Post it on the door.
I like my idea that it's better
That it's a kink?
a kink in the bedroom. Yeah.
You would think that.
Why not? All right. Well, listen, we're not signing off, but thank you, Angela.
Oh yeah, sure.
For reading that entire document.
Hey, it's what I do, man.
You're a fucking mensch, and you're a credit to society. You're also very pretty.
Oh, hey, thanks.
It's just a fact.
It counts, you know. That
It's just a fact.
That makes a difference.
All right. Well, there it is. We have read the entirety of the document. Well, Angela has. That was the last part was kind of the bumpiest ride of the whole thing. But yeah, man. I mean, they got away with a lot. I'm just absolutely shocked, especially considering some of the language that came from the judge to Brian Friedman during his. It's very interesting because Brian Friedman got protected under the guise of this lawsuit on the one hand, but and I don't have it, I can't pull it out, but there were so many instances that I have memory of at least a few incidences where the judge was rebuking him in other motions or otherwise when it came to things that he was doing publicly. He also had Brian Friedman, he had a complete 180 in terms of the way in which he was speaking publicly.
He did.
He stopped. I think the judge had a conversation with him about it. I think there was at least a conversation where the judge was like, "You're whack, dude. You're going to pull that shit in my fucking courtroom. I'm going to tell you right now."
Yeah. I noticed that all of those quotes were from December and January. All the worst of his quotes. And then he put a lid on it.
Victoria has a very self-serving point of view on this. She said, "I think that the judge gave Lively everything she wanted in the beginning, which isn't true. He hadn't ruled on anything, so he didn't give her anything. But then once he saw the full picture, I mean, this is so. You're not playing with a full deck here. He probably was like, wow, this is insane. It's time to start doing my job. You understand that they're being put on trial."
Well, also what that assumption states is that he saw more evidence and began to side with Lively more. So even if you think that he was like phoning it in or like half baking his fucking rulings at the beginning, what you're saying is that as he saw more of the evidence, because the judge is seeing a lot more evidence than we are. Not everything is publicly disclosed.
I know, but Victoria was with us, I think, for most of the reading of this. So she must have heard the judge say, yes, a jury would reasonably find that Blake Lively's claims of sexual harassment were not only valid, but that find for those claims in her favor, but he could not bring them to the jury because of jurisdiction. Like, she must have heard that. So it's just weird how I just, when I see it live in real life, when I see people rearranging facts to serve their narrative, it blows my mind. Like I'm sitting here in awe of the fact, or really dumbfounded by the fact that Brian Friedman was able to get away with the things he got away with per Lyman, and I suppose per the law. It just doesn't make any sense to me, but according to Judge Lyman, it's apparently sensible that he was able to go out and treat people this way. I am not pretending that the judge said something else about it. I am not pretending that I appreciate what the judge said about it at all. I'm living in the reality around the situation, which is that the judge gave Brian Friedman, ostensibly gave him the right to file a lawsuit as a means to defame and belittle the plaintiff.
Yeah.
Or his whatever opposing force he's dealing with.
I can't believe you ran his mouth like that, Brian Friedman.
Yeah,
I just remember being so shocked. It's so unprofessional.
No, it's basically like Trump came along and did everything all fucked up, and then like everyone was like, I'm gonna try it, and so they pushed these laws.
It's not just Trump. It's like with lawyers, they always say like if you have if the facts are on your side, argue the facts. If the facts are not on your side, bang the table or something. There's like a saying that's very famous among lawyers, where they're like, make a big fucking production of it if you don't actually have the facts on your side. And from the very beginning, I just saw that that's what he's doing. Like
Freeman,
Blake
yeah.
Lively's team, like I don't know what her lawyers look like. I don't know that they're doing anything other than like legal podcasts, but they're certainly not doing like a bunch of fucking media. You know, not like Brian Friedman was. He's doing a whole fucking media tour, and I was like, oh, okay, this guy's not very strong on the facts. He has to bang the table, you know.
Nadine gets what I'm putting down. She's like, it's the Trump effect. They see proof, and call it fake. They hear facts and they claim, what's that? They claim AI, right? Believe what people say, Victoria. Do you hear the facts? This is what drives me crazy. Like the facts are right there, Victoria. Like the judge, this whole ruling looked real bad on top to bottom on the Wayfarer parties and Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath. Like top to bottom, it looked real bad. There were a couple of moments where the judge was like, I'm not buying this. I'm not buying that for Blake Lively, no doubt. In one of them, I completely disagree with him. And I think he's setting a terrible precedence when he says that filmmakers can just have something as simple as the two lovers slow dance, all caught up in their own world, and that means he can grab ass and stick his tongue down her throat or do whatever the fuck he wants because he has creative latitude, because he's a director. I mean,
he's director of a movie with sex in it.
I mean, it's a terrible precedent to set. I would imagine SAG's going to have a problem with it. I would imagine that there's going to be some kind of pushback to that. So I disagree with the judge on that, but there were only a couple of moments where the judge was like that moment where the judge was like, nah, Blake, you're not bringing the real stuff, but only a couple. Almost everything else was, yeah, Blake Lively's claims are legit, but we can't bring them to a jury because they happened in New Jersey or what have you. And I'm really surprised because I believe you were here with us when we read it. I'm really surprised that you can still, I don't know, puke out this rhetoric about, I couldn't find the word. You can tell I struggle. I don't know how to put it. Spew this rhetoric about Blake Lively getting, that the judge saw through Blake Lively. You're just not willing to hear the facts of this case. You're not willing to hear the truth, even when the truth is spat right out in front of your face. Like Angela just read to you, the judge clearly siding with Blake Lively on more than 70% of the claims, but only being able to give her a little under 30% of them in terms of carrying them to the jury. And by the way, those claims he called himself, Judge Lyman, not Dale Wheatley, not Blake Lively, Judge Lyman said they were the crux of the case. So the actual core of the case is what's going forward, but you're still swinging your noisemakers and blowing your little thing that goes like that.
I think she's actually been really cool in the chat. For somebody who disagrees,
listen.
You're being a little belittling,
No, she's sitting here partying, dude.
Yeah, okay. Well, let him have a little shred of celebration because they don't get much on the Baldoni side.
Well, look,
he's been racking up the L's,
Listen, I don't think I'm being hard on her at all.
He's a hard person to support.
I don't believe I'm being hard on her at all.
Tangerine said, "It only matters."
If I am, I apologize though.
Tangerine Gora said, "It only matters that she engaged in protected activity in good faith.
Yes.
The content of the 17 points was not including anything about taking over a film. All of that was totally made up. There has yet to be shown any evidence that she tried to take over the movie.
Well, and this is a good point. And of course, well, there is evidence of that, like that they put forward, that it's garbage, but it's evidence.
What, that Sony tried to take over the movie? Or
No,
that Blake Lively
no, that Blake Lively tried to take over the movie because they're saying shit like, the editing bay this, got her own editors that,
Yes.
her cut versus his cut.
Right, so she was working with Sony, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
And
I know that. We know that, and we know that in Sony's testimony, including Ange Gianetti's testimony,
Yeah, right.
who one could infer was more pro Wayfarer than pro Lively, certainly at least during the production, said herself that all that Blake Lively did was work on the Sony cut. Because I can tell you this because I am a producer. I've worked in Hollywood, and I can tell you that there's the director's cut, and then there's the production company cut, or the distributor's cut. And the distributor's cut is the cut that will always prevail unless you happen to be somebody as big as Steven Spielberg, Quentin Tarantino, or some writer-director. Noah Baumbach comes to mind. Even somebody like Kevin Smith comes to mind, although I'm sure he didn't have final cut on his.
Jacqueline has a good question. Could all of this have been filed in New Jersey? And the answer is yes, but they tried to choose the jurisdiction that had the laws that were more likely to prevail. And because none of the parties live in New Jersey, I think that they were stuck with either New York or California law. I
also heard, and I don't know this to be true, but I heard that what did she prevail on? The retaliation laws in California are tougher than they are in New Jersey. I don't know if that's fact.
In New Jersey?
But I think that I heard, or somebody wrote, that the retaliation laws are tougher, which, I think is probably true. But yeah, man, I think that I don't think it matters at this point because, again, as the judge himself put it, the crux of the case is moving forward. And again, I think that losing the SH was valuable to her, because I think that a jury would sit around and be humming and hawing about the severity.
Phil Baumling's got a good question, saying replying to Victoria, really, really, really wants Blake to be wrong. And I'm wondering if the needle has shifted at all as evidence has come out, does nothing register that Baldoni just might be a creep? Like, with all of this evidence,
yeah.
It's just a good question. It's like, the concept of like Occam's razor, where if something mysterious has happened, something that's not like so clearly explainable, and you have to come up with explanations for it, the more simple explanation is usually the correct one. Like, you don't have to do like a roundabout conspiracy theory, like all the way to here and there, and like all these other characters and all these other things that happened in order to explain a thing, when the point A to point B explanation is possible too. Like, usually it's the simplest explanation prevails and is the true one.
Here's like Victoria saying something that it's just weird
and
to me.
And so what I was saying is that Baldoni might just be a creep who, by his own admission, has impulsive speech, and he might have just said some things that upset some people.
It blows my mind that that there are literal quotes of this guy saying that he didn't take no for an answer from a woman, at least one in his past.
This is right.
There are literal quotes of this guy saying that he is still trying to process his own misogyny against women.
That he had a pornography addiction. He admits that he's talking about it at his workplace.
And
I don't know,
and
man.
still they just, because it's just
possible that she wasn't just trying to leverage whatever. Like,
it's just a hatred for Blake Lively. So Victoria says, even if she, and look, her comment seems to imply some excitement, some satisfaction over this. She says, even if she does win, she has already lost the majority of public opinion. And that seems like you're saying that with some sort of satisfaction. And I just think that's so fucked. Because that was his goal.
Even if she wins.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
But she's winning the retaliation claim.
If she wins and proves that there was a smear campaign.
Yes.
You're saying that it was effective.
But it was effective. Do you hear yourself, dude? Like, I'm serious, Victoria. Do you hear what you just said?
The things that
you're saying that if he's found guilty,
if he's found liable
for smearing this woman's reputation
Against the law.
you're okay with it because it was successful.
Yeah, right.
Do you think this through? Because that really sounds like you're cruel. It sounds like you've got a propensity for cruelty.
It seems super unfair if that's the case.
It's cruel. That's cruel.
I feel like everybody should apologize to Blake Lively for believing any of this bullshit. If she wins her lawsuit, that means everybody who was on Baldoni's side was tricked.
It does prove, though, that, as so many have said, I think we've said it here more than once, is that the damage is permanent. Her career will never be the same. Her reputation will never be the same. And that she took one, part of it is probably because she's like, you know what? I'll just do a little bit of acting here and there because she knows she's aging out. She knows that her acting career was going to start to dwindle to some degree, at least, sadly for women, if they're not super smoking hot, all the way until they're, with a few exceptions.
Like me.
Like you. And Meryl Streep, Oh God, to me, it like when Victoria says that, it's just like, it turns my stomach.
Nadine says he admitted to showing adult videos. He admitted to saying over-sexualized comments. What does it take?
It's weird. Well, look at they reelected Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well,
people
don't
just
always have to keep bringing him up,
Well, you can't control what I say.
This is very much true.
I guess somebody's going to say,
true.
That's probably going to be somebody saying, I'm telling you to shut up or something.
I absolutely cannot ever.
Yeah, you don't get to decide whether I bring him up, because I think he's an important precedent of what's going on. I think he's the guy who has paved the way for people like Brian Friedman to be what Brian Friedman is. And
it's true. It has definitely shown everybody how much of like a carnival sideshow this country actually is.
Yeah, and also how loose the laws actually are, where you can actually find these crevices where your darkness can just fucking prevail over what would be otherwise considered ethical or decent behavior. Cosmic Energy is asking if we're confident that she'll win. I mean, I am confident she's going to win. Yes, I think I think this is a slam dunk. I think the retaliation is a slam dunk. I mean, we read what the judge cited for the reasons why they're moving forward, and it's damning shit. I mean, these people are talking about destroying her, and they're building strategies around destroying her, and they're doing so not and not just sticking to the facts. They're making shit up. The judge pointed it out in this document. They're literally making shit up about her and about people with whom she associates. So yeah, I think it's a big fucking moment.
Phil Bumling said that Blake will be under a microscope, unlike any other actor in Hollywood or elsewhere. Her slightest misstep during an interview will be a scandal. I mean, if she prevails, I don't know that it will be anymore, because everybody will just be like, "Oh, I'm not going to fall for that again. I'm not going to fall for another fucking smear campaign."
Well, and when you say everybody, listen to Victoria. Victoria says, "I'm on Team Truth. Okay, I'm okay. I'm okay with the truth, and I hope you guys are too." You just said that if she prevails, that at least what he did worked against her. So how can you say on the one hand that you're on Team Truth, but on the other hand say that there's a certain amount of satisfaction in knowing that even if what he did was found to be liable, at least it was effective? Like, that doesn't, you're not congruent in those two statements. You can't be Team Truth and then be glad when the truth comes out that she still suffered the damage that she did. That's Team Hatred. You're on Team Hatred, and you're trying to disguise it as Team Truth if you believe those two things. You know what I'm saying? And, the sad part about all this is that when we talk about this, when you fucking put our videos out and people treat us like shit online, and,
Do they do that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, go look at the comments.
Maybe that's your problem. You look at the comments.
Well, it's my job.
Yeah,
it's part of my job. You're supposed to. It's in the fucking, the handbook of growing a fucking channel, is to respond to comments. I also want to delete the ones that are wildly offensive and inappropriate, which, are massive. Somebody says, she said she was a ball buster. You understand what vernacular is, right? You know what that means, ball buster, right? Ball buster is something that is not meant as, there's nothing sexual 100% involved in that.
That's a saying her dad said, because
yeah,
he's like a boomer or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like such an old-timey saying.
Yeah. And a ball buster is not something offensive. It's you can call it annoying. Hey, listen, you want to sit around and talk about Blake Lively being annoying? I suppose, go for it. Have your fill. That's not the conversation and the sentiment going on around her at all, right? In fact, just today, I had to delete a comment that said that Blake Lively is an extortionist and a criminal. That was the comment in one of our videos.
She says saying that she was a ball buster was in the context of talking to Baldoni, who was very sincere and very sensitive. And she comes from a world where her husband is a comedy writer and super, super high achieving one at that. And everybody in her social circle is also in that same realm of entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Super, super high achieving, very quick-witted writer guys.
Yeah.
So if everybody that she's talking to, including like her best friend Taylor Swift, she's constantly fucking writing clever lyrics and shit.
Yeah.
So if she's like, yeah, I'm a ball buster, she's talking about how everybody she's around is always like looking for a joke and always ribbing each other. And that she was saying that to Baldoni because he is such a sensitive little lamb. That she just had to state it so that he wouldn't take anything she says the wrong way. It seems to me that she was actually being very careful with him by saying that, like, I'm sorry if I say anything that might come off as offensive, but you and I come from different worlds. It seems actually very professional and very cool for somebody who is just trying to get to know their scene partner in the expedited schedule that they have to do that. Like, she has to pretend in a movie that she's fucking in a romantic relationship and ultimately married to this guy, right? But they have to get to know each other so quickly that all of those weird early long texts that they were sharing with each other before they got into any conflict are so cringy because they're having to build rapport like super fast. They're having to get to know each other and get along with each other so fucking fast. And this is the challenge with anybody who is being made to play a part in a relationship with somebody that they literally don't know.
Victoria, Taylor didn't ghost her. You don't know that. You're talking out your ass.
That's smear campaign language.
You're just.
We literally have the documents where they're saying that should be part of the smear campaign.
That's garbage that you're spewing. That they're telling you. She did not ghost her.
It goes to show if you think that that's true, that you have been manipulated by the smear campaign.
Correct.
Because we literally have their internal documents where they have these like bullet points of things that they're going to pursue, stories and theories, and that's such a shame.
Somebody's giving us a compliment saying, I do like how we can ask questions without having to pay. Thank you.
Oh yeah, I know. Oh my God. Can you believe it? I've seen that on a few different lives and I'm like, what do you mean you had to spend $20 to get somebody to, and then when
that's why we're broke, by the way.
Well, like, listen, but then the question pops up. Have you ever noticed that where like they'll just dismiss the question? They'll be like, oh yeah, haha, and they won't even answer and they'll move on to the next one. I always feel so bad that somebody spent money.
Sasha says that to me, a ball buster just means somebody blunt. Yeah, they're blunt. They're,
yes.
they kind of, they can be intimidating. It can be construed by some as vulgar because you're referring to testicles.
Dude, she's married to Deadpool. You don't think that it's like...
Well, it's also a boomer statement,
like,
bro.
Yeah,
it's a guy with his hands down his pants, say, hey, quit busting my balls, will you? And just bring me the fucking newspaper. It's
exactly.
it's not a sexist statement. You know what I mean? And it's definitely not any kind of a harassment or haranguing of any kind.
Yeah, Nadine says, I would talk shit all day long with my best friends. Let's be real.
People talk shit. But
here's the thing: is she clocked early on that Justin Baldoni is very sensitive, that he's very fragile, and this is proven out in his own testimony when he talks about how easily his feelings are hurt. So she's literally caring for him by labeling herself that way, where she's like, listen, you can just dismiss anything that I say that might come as offensive because I don't mean it. I'm just a ball buster. Like, I feel like that's actually really smart of her to do. She's managing that relationship properly because she recognizes that he's a sensitive man. Too sensitive, in my opinion, and probably a lot of other people's, because I don't think that he would be in this mess if he wasn't.
Cosmic just said, good thing Taylor likes her friends canceled, but they can't seem to get it through their head that song is very clearly about Blake Lively. It is so obviously about Blake Lively. It's ridiculous. And in support of her, Victoria says, Taylor, if you look at her history, she's never backed down from a fight. She has always stood up for what she believed in when it relates to her. She doesn't fight other people's battles. She fights her own fucking battles, and she has enough of them.
Yeah, she does.
She's not fighting Blake Lively's battle. You all think that because she's not sitting there with fucking picket signs, that for some reason that means that they're abandoned. I can assure you that the two of them decided that it would be best to not have a public-facing relationship in lieu of the hatred that's going down. This woman's trying to get married in June. She's trying to plan a fucking wedding. She doesn't need to be carrying the burdens of the disputes between Blake Lively and her offenders when she's got to deal with her own fucking problems, like Scoots. who's now, disposed of.
Oh, this is crazy. Victoria said, did you guys know that Justin's not only backed by one billionaire, he's backed by two. His father's also a billionaire. How the fuck is that true?
He's a nepo. Justin.
His father's a billionaire? I don't know.
Well, that says a lot actually about his condition. Justin Baldoni's father's net worth.
It's hard to become a billionaire. I don't know if that's true. That's like I don't know his industry is advertising, right? Don't you have to own a sports team or whatever?
He's a marketing visionary and pioneer in product placement in Hollywood. According to Baldoni's net worth, no.
I'm Bobo said, Dale, give me the word to use my power.
No. Yeah. That's so funny. No, she's fine, bro. I mean, I don't mind the argument she puts forward.
That's really funny.
It's entertaining, His father created As Seen on TV.
I'm Bobo's button finger is burning, let me use it.
So he's just a rich guy, which is look, I'm not going to diss on rich people. I remember, I talk about Roadside Attractions, which is run by Eric Darbeloff. Eric Darbeloff, he optioned a script that's behind me, actually. One of these. This one right here, as a matter of fact, that is. I need to straighten this out. I'm going to do this live on TV. That script right there. Eric Darbeloff of Roadside Attractions. You didn't even see that. They'll see
Pick it up.
They'll see it in tomorrow's cut. Roadside Attractions, it was run by this guy, Eric Darbeloff.
Yeah.
And I've, when I was young and sort of, I guess, less objective or less open to to anything outside my own narrative, I said something about about trust fund babies. I was like, fucking trust fund babies or something. And he got real uncomfortable, he got real uncomfortable. And he was like, I mean, they can be very productive people. And I felt really.
Why would you hold it
bad
against them? It's not their fault that they were born into wealth.
No, yeah, and he's not wrong about that. But it was a bad moment for me because I didn't realize I just assumed because he was cool that he couldn't be one.
That's really funny.
Do you know what I mean?
You were making a class struggle statement, and he was like, "What class?"
It's so funny how things happen. I love this story just because I lived in a homophobic household. My dad was a homophobe, 100%. And he bestowed those horrible traits upon us when we were little kids.
It's you and your brother, right?
Me and my brother.
So it was important for him to instill that in his boys,
yeah, he wanted to make
right?
sure that his kids weren't queer.
Yeah, of course.
So
such a strange hang up to have. You know what I mean?
It is.
It's so. It's so weird when
can't
people
believe it.
feel embattled by something that literally does not affect them.
Yeah. Now I don't know if my dad put this in my head because it goes too far back, but there was a point in time in my upbringing where I believed that homosexuality was caused by rejection from women, that these men were just simply unattractive.
Oh, that people are straight by default until they're
just too unattractive. They needed to get laid and women wouldn't do it. So they were like,
how old were
how about you? Okay, fine. If it's all I can get, it's all I can get. Was what I thought homosexuality was. It's the craziest thing in the world.
When you were a kid?
Yeah. And so this is another instance where later in life, I thought all trust fund kids, all people with trust fund are, useless fucking idiots who, ride a wave that was, and I just wish I was a trust fund baby. I just wish I was. I was
God, I know.
I look at them, I'm like, comfortable?
Especially
so comfortable,
in this
bro.
fucking country when you got people that actually have a safety net, people that actually have monetary support. Oh my God.
Dude, I got a friend who's sitting on whatever fucking 10, 12 pieces of property throughout the country. Fucking West Coast property, East Coast property, lakefront property, beachfront property, condominiums. He's got it all, bro. And it was all, wealth passed on from grandfather to his father, then to him, eventually to him. And there was a point in time in my life where I'd look at people like that and be like, oh, fuck, man, easy street, whatever, silver spoon, all this nonsense. Now I fucking admire it. Now I'm like, oh, so lucky, dude.
Yeah.
Never paid rent. Well, maybe he did, but you know what I mean? Anyway, it's just so crazy how our ignorance is sort of installed,
Victoria says Blake's a nepo baby. Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing: is like, if
So is Miles Davis.
if your parent, yeah, right, exactly. If your parents are like acting teachers, I don't know that that really gives you. I mean, yeah, you grow up like exposed to acting, and maybe they can help you train you up, but it's not like her parent was like the ran a studio or something. It's
What's
not
the
like she
difference
had any
between-
like real connections.
What's the
that-
difference between Christian Brando versus Sean Penn? What's the difference between Christian Brando versus Emilio Estevez? You know what I mean? Like, Nepo being a Nepo baby doesn't guarantee you anything. It does open the doors. Yes, it gives you an advantage, but who doesn't want a fucking advantage? I watch Survivor every week, and all everyone's trying to do is get an advantage. Because that's life.
That's true.
I've had absolutely no advantages, and it shows up on my fucking report card of
Oh,
life.
it could be worse. You could be in a family that is like super wealthy and they hold on to it.
Oh, no.
And they're constantly like doing like
Jackie Chan.
They're all constantly testing you and like disappointed, and so they keep holding on
Yeah,
to you.
Warren Buffett.
Huh?
Warren Buffett, he's worth like, $500 billion. And he's like, each of my kids will get $1 million and that is it. And I'm not saying that that's like, fuck, if I got $1 million, I'd be just like,
I know, but like that doesn't really account for much today, Yep.
Victoria, if you're ride or die for the truth, then I want you to show up here during the trial and I want you to stand by the truth if Justin Baldoni or the Wayfair parties are held accountable for retaliation. If the truth comes out in the trial that they retaliate, are you going to admit that Justin Baldoni did wrong? Are you going to admit that are you going to do that? Because you're either for the truth or you're not,
I know.
dude.
Don't point to camera.
I can point to the fucking camera.
Settle down.
No.
Phil Baumling is on this is badgering Victoria too.
Well, Victoria's asking
Wait,
for it.
I know, but listen, Phil Baumling said, still haven't answered my question, Victoria. Are you ride or die with Baldoni no matter what comes out?
Right. And she keeps saying that she's ride or die with the truth, but you're not telling the truth because you've already said that if she wins, the damage is already done. And
So it doesn't matter, I guess?
yeah, and that's finger looking good to you.
So what's the point, right? Anywho, do you think that it is time to start the weekend? Or would you like to remain here with our lovely folks on this Friday?
Victoria thinks that Justin Baldoni is no longer in the case, as if he's not the chairman of the Wayfair fucking parties.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, he has been... It's been reduced for him, which is, nice if you care about him.
Justin Baldoni is on trial, dude. He's just because it's his company. That's ridiculous. You're just.
It's also his.
Now you're finding more excuses.
It's also his wrongdoing.
Yeah, it's his. He's the one who
He directed
ordered
this-
the retaliation.
Yeah, he directed this movie.
I mean, come on, bro. He's going to testify by deposition or in person, as a come on, man. What did somebody say? Cosmic says R rating would have been a terrible idea. What are we talking about?
The movie.
Which one? It Ends With Us?
Yeah.
It was an R-rated movie, wasn't it? Did they get PG-13 on that?
I don't know. I don't know how that ended up.
Anybody else? What do we got? Happiness in your life. It says to Victoria, I saw that today, but I didn't link to it. If Sam Baldoni really is a billionaire, then why was Justin saying his house was being foreclosed on and asked Steven Sarowitz how to raise $1 million?
Yeah, that's why I'm skeptical about his dad being a billionaire.
No, I think his dad was extremely rich. Like, I did hear this, that he was like this. I mean, the internet's saying that he was a pioneer for marketing in film. And believe me, that means money, 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 money,
Well,
money.
it can mean that you're a pioneer for methods that get stolen from you or something. Like sometimes people don't make a lot of money about the things they invent.
Doesn't sound like it was stolen, but I can't speak
I'm just saying,
to.
like that doesn't just because you're labeled a pioneer doesn't mean that you have the wealth that comes from that.
Oh, Colleen wanted it PG-13, and yes, they got PG-13. Well, and I can understand why Colleen would want it PG-13 because they want to keep the film, they want to broaden that audience so that women and children or, younger women can see the warning signs and all this other stuff, because this was, of course, so close to home for her. I feel like I got to write another book, man. I'm really feeling it. And I think I just need to write some fiction and just like get lost.
Get lost, bro.
Yeah, I gotta wait. I gotta find
listen.
income. I got all kinds of shit.
This little critter right
There's so
here.
many problems.
He's on the move. It's time for me to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a blast. It's been a great week. We've really had fun hanging out with you, even the haters. I hope you're liking the live, even if you hate us and you think I'm an abusive human being. I hope that you're following us, even if you don't particularly like us, but you're interested in our take because it gives you something, it fuels your fire or whatever. But if you're following us, stick around long enough to enjoy the live coverage that we're going to do during the trial. We're going to wake up, we're going to get showered, we're going to turn on this fucking live, and we're going to sit here with our little screen on there, and we're going to be covering we're going to get the download from whoever's in there. We're going to have portions of the testimony ready to go so we can talk about it as it happens, particularly things that are going to show up, by way of deposition.
Hey, check this out. Victoria said, "Know what, Dale? I'm going to buy and read your book."
I would love you to do that. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a good book.
And if you're, especially if you're a lover for the truth. And Victoria, you're always welcome here. And you know what? It's fun to duke it out with you. You know what I like about you? You just stand up and take it. You fucking deliver. You throw your punches back. It's a good time. We have a good time. I love all that. Yes, I'm going to watch Coachella tonight. I'm going to pop some popcorn and watch some Coachella. You want to watch some Coachella tonight?
Yeah.
Is Justin on tonight? I think he is, right? Yeah, she plays tomorrow.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's Justin Bieber night tonight.
You can go find out.
I'm going to go watch that Canadian sing, bro. That kid's got a voice, bro. Staggeringly delicious.
You just discovered?
Well, I knew, but I wasn't into, I don't follow the kids when they're
Yeah, of
kids.
course.
But now he's like all tatted up and he's been through it,
Yeah. Now he's making sad songs. You're like, I'm in.
Exactly. I think you'll like my book, Victoria. It's fairly well written. Just ask some of the people in the chat. They'll tell you the same. I'm not even, go read the reviews on what you call it. All right. You guys are lovely people. I got to get this dog out of here before it has a fit and bites somebody. I can't wait to see you guys on Monday. For those of us joining on Sunday, we're doing Pluto, and Angela's been doing Mad Prep. I have not been, and I feel bad about that, but I think tomorrow I can get caught up.
It's a study group.
I'm already well versed on Pluto because I am an astrologer, but you're always learning, and I definitely need to get myself in presentation form.
Yeah.
So I'll spend a good part of Saturday getting ready for that while I prepare this live for the main channel so we can endure the insults that inevitably will come from those who support them. Fare thee well, all. You guys are truly remarkable human beings, and it is our privilege to spend our nights with you. Good night, good night.